Chapter 172, Chapter 164, Unexpected Gain, Encountering Possession. Before this, despite having Foundation establishment techniques, Li Chang'an had rarely fought against a Foundation establishment powerhouse, let alone killed one with his own hands. Ultimately, he still held a certain reverence for this realm. But after today, everything was different. He stood by the stream with his eyes slightly closed, taking deep breaths of the blood-tainted air. A new, indescribable quality seemed to settle over him. So this is all a Foundation establishment powerhouse amounts to. Li Chang'an suddenly smiled, a newfound ease in his expression. In that moment, many people came to his mind. Murongkang Chukshen Kaoshealong. They're all at Foundation establishment, which means they can all be killed. Just then, suddenly, the aura of a Foundation establishment powerhouse flared on the distant horizon. Zheng Feiheng. Li Chang'an recognized the aura. With a casual wave of his hand, he disguised his appearance and recalled the profound water turtle, leaving himself standing there alone. A moment later, Zheng Feiheng arrived, halting in midair to regard Li Chang'an with caution. He could sense Wu Lianqian's aura saturating the blood-red stream. In other words, his old rival had died here, slain by the stranger before him. Friend. Zheng Feiheng cupped his fist in salute and carefully probed Li Chang'an's aura, discovering it was slightly weaker than that of a typical Foundation establishment cultivator. But if that was the extent of his power, he couldn't possibly have killed Wu Lianqian. This meant that Li Chang'an was concealing a portion of his aura. It was also possible that he'd been injured while killing Wu Lianqian, causing his aura to diminish. Regardless, he could not be underestimated. Friend, was it you who killed Wu Lianqian, the Wu family ancestor? Zheng Feiheng asked cautiously, inwardly on high alert. Li Chang'an glanced at him, his tone indifferent. That's right, he was passing through and spoke rudely to me. I got angry and killed him. Spoke rudely? Zheng Feiheng was inwardly alarmed. Wu Lianqian was fleeing for his life. Why would he have stopped to insult someone? As he saw it, this mysterious Foundation establishment cultivator must have seen that Wu Lianqian was severely injured and decided to kill him for his treasure. Friend, Wu Lianqian was a great enemy of our Zheng family. Zheng Feiheng spoke again. By eliminating him, you've done our Zheng family a great service. Would you honor us with a visit to the Zheng clan territory for some tea? There's no need. I have other matters to attend to. With that, Li Chang'an didn't linger. He performed the little 5 elements escape technique, transforming into a streak of light that vanished over the horizon in an instant. Zheng Feiheng watched the retreating figure, his eyes filled with deep apprehension. Because he had noticed that there were few signs of a battle here. In other words, Wu Lianqian had put up little to no resistance. He might not have even had time to react before he was torn to shreds. Could this person be at the middle stage of Foundation establishment? Just who is he? Zheng Feiheng slowly descended to the stream's edge. He stared at the crimson water, lost in thought. After a moment, Zheng Qingqing also arrived. She glanced at the stream, her delicate brows knitting together. Wu Lianqian is dead, she asked. Yes, a mysterious Foundation establishment cultivator killed him. At his words, Zheng Qingqing scanned the surroundings. She too was surprised to find so few signs of a battle. Even if Wu Lianqian was already severely injured, he couldn't have been killed this easily. This situation could only mean one thing. The attacker's strength far surpassed Wu Lianqian's middle stage of Foundation establishment. Zheng Qingqing's expression grew solemn. Several figures flashed through her mind, but none seemed to match the profile. Just then, an image of Li Chang'an flickered through her mind. She couldn't help but shake her head. That's absurd. Why would I even think of that? That evening, Li Chang'an returned to his residence. Before heading back, he had gone to check on the Wu clan territory, hoping to scavenge for more spoils amidst the chaos. Unfortunately, the Zheng family ancestor, Zheng Yuanda, was already there. Li Chang'an had no choice but to withdraw and return to Yellow Crane Immortal City. Wu Lianqian was an ancestor after all. His storage pouch should be filled with treasures. He took out the storage pouch and borrowed some of the profound water turtle's power to erase the restriction on it. Then, he opened it to have a look. The next moment, Li Chang'an's gaze was immediately drawn to an elixir pill. This is a foundation establishment pill. His eyes widened in sheer delight. I took this risk for a Tier 2 body refining technique. I never imagined that I'd end up with a foundation establishment pill. Excited, Chang'an immediately took it out. However, the moment it was in his hand, much of his excitement faded. This foundation establishment pill is flawed. It's not a genuine one, but an inferior grade at best. Chang'an's brow furrowed as he held the elixir pill, carefully sensing its properties. His proficiency in alchemy had long since reached the Tier 1 peak. While he wasn't capable of refining a foundation establishment pill himself, he could easily discern its quality. After all, he often produced inferior-grade elixir pills during his own alchemy. Thankfully, the flaw in this foundation establishment pill isn't too great. While it won't reach the 20% success rate of a genuine pill, it should still have about a 15% chance. 15%. That was already quite high. It was important to remember that many cultivators could only rely on a vein protection pill when attempting to break through to foundation establishment. Even though this foundation establishment pill was an inferior grade, if word of it got out, it would undoubtedly cause a bloodbath. I'll consider this pill my safety net. Chang'an examined it for another moment before carefully putting it away. All things considered, he now had both a foundation establishment pill and a foundation establishment spiritual object. It's just that the pill was of poor quality and the foundation establishment spiritual object was incomplete. Neither was perfect. With my current resources, even with this inferior pill and the incomplete 7-leafed colored lotus, my chances of reaching foundation establishment are still quite high. There should be almost no issue. Chapter 173, Chapter 164, Unexpected Harvest Encountering Possession. Chang'an mused, my foundation is indeed incredibly deep. But he still wasn't satisfied. I want to attempt the breakthrough to foundation establishment with the most perfect preparations possible. I'll have to visit the black market and the immortal city's trade districts more often. Maybe I'll get a lucky find. Chang'an knew there might be better foundation establishment spiritual objects in the ancient wood secret realm, but he had no desire to go. He still intended to try his luck at finding a bargain. Afterward, he continued to rummage through the storage pouch. Besides the one inferior-grade foundation establishment pill, the storage pouch also contained a good amount of materials for refining them. It looks like Wu Lianchen was planning to cultivate a new generation of foundation establishment cultivators for the Wu family before he died, but all his preparations have fallen into my hands now. Chang'an took stock of all the materials and couldn't help but feel a bit exasperated. It was because he had now gathered 3 full sets of primary and secondary materials for the foundation establishment pill. Yet he couldn't get his hands on a single Tier 2 demon core. The chances of finding a Tier 2 demon core as a lucky bargain were extremely low. After all, it was the kind of thing almost no one would misidentify. Chang'an sighed and continued looking through the storage pouch. There were 2 Tier 2 spiritual artifacts inside, one for offense and one for defense. Both were high-value gold element treasures. Before long, he found what he was looking for. A Tier 2 body refining technique, the Demon Dragon Body Refining Technique. With a thought, a blood-red jade scroll appeared in Chang'an's hand. He immersed his consciousness into it, perusing the contents carefully. A smile soon touched the corners of his lips. It's a technique that can be cultivated all the way to Tier 2 peak. Not bad. A Tier 2 peak body refinement could withstand a direct attack from a foundation establishment peak cultivator. When cultivators fought, if their magical power and magic were comparable, then one's physique became incredibly important. The reason Wu Lianchen had been able to withstand the combined assault of the 2 Zhang family foundation establishment cultivators for so long today was largely due to his formidable physique. Wu Lianchen had probably just reached Tier 2 in his body refinement, barely qualifying as Tier 2 early stage. If his physique had been even a step stronger, the outcome of today's battle would have been uncertain. Chang'an's mind raced as he perused the contents of the Demon Dragon Body Refining Technique. This body refining technique was very similar to the demon blood body tempering skill he had previously obtained from Zheng Jinbao's storage pouch. It was also divided into 9 stages and required large amounts of demon beast essence blood and spirit medicine. However, the requirements for this technique were even more demanding. Each breakthrough to a new minor realm required the essence blood of a dragon-type demon beast. Dragon-type demon beasts. Li Chang'an mulled it over for a moment. In the demon beast realm, almost any beast with dragon in its lineage was exceptionally powerful. Even the most common earth dragon could reach Tier 2 upon reaching maturity. With my current status, it shouldn't be too hard to get some dragon-type demon beast essence blood. If all else fails, I can just go to Xianxia. Xianxia was an alchemist, and alchemy also required demon beast essence blood. She surely had channels to obtain various kinds of essence blood. At her level of cultivation, her circle was bound to include Tier 2 beast tamers. My body refinement is currently at the Tier 1/8 layer, and the 9th stage is still in progress. I must start collecting materials for the Tier 2 breakthrough as soon as possible. I should also pay a visit to the 10,000 Treasures Tower. Also, the Venerable Soul Banner is radiating hunger again. It also needs to devour materials to break through to Tier 2. Li Chang'an rummaged through the storage pouch. He quickly found several Tier 2 treasures suitable for the Venerable Soul Banner to consume. Go on, eat up, break through to Tier 2 as soon as you can. He tossed all the treasures to the Venerable Soul Banner at once. A moment later, a dense black mist surged from the Venerable Soul Banner, instantly devouring the treasures. However, it wasn't satisfied, and once again radiated a feeling of hunger. This time, Li Chang'an faintly perceived 3 words. Neth soul cries Tao. Transmitting those 3 words seemed to exhaust all the power of the Venerable Soul Banner's artifact spirit. After that, it fell silent. Nether Soul Crystal. Li Chang'an frowned. This was also a Tier 2 treasure, but it was no ordinary one. It was exceedingly rare. Whether he could obtain it would depend on luck. He put the Venerable Soul Banner away and continued taking stock of the treasures in the storage pouch. It had to be said that for a family patriarch, Wu Lianqian's personal fortune was quite substantial. Besides the demon dragon body refining technique, his storage pouch also contained over 100 cultivation techniques and magic manuals, including one that was a top-grade gold element technique. With these cultivation techniques and magic, Li Chang'an could have established his own family. But he had no such plans. About an hour later, Li Chang'an finished taking inventory. All in all, his greatest gains this time were the inferior grade foundation establishment pill and the Tier 2 body refining technique. The next morning, Li Chang'an arrived at the 10,000 Treasures Tower. Jin Yue greeted him with a face full of smiles and an exceedingly friendly attitude. Taoist Li, what are you looking to buy today? Manager Jin, I'd actually like to sell some things first. Oh, are you planning to sell talismans, Taoist Li? More than just talismans. As he spoke, Li Chang'an took out several Tier 2 treasures. Spirit plants, elixir pills, exotic stones, talismans, and so on. Almost all of them came from Wu Lianqian's storage pouch, and they were items he had no use for. Of course, this was only a small portion of it. Since there were so many treasures, he planned to sell off the loot in batches. But even this small portion was enough to astonish Jin Yue. He raised an eyebrow and asked in a joking tone, Taoist Li, where did you get so many Tier 2 treasures? Don't tell me you robbed a foundation establishment great cultivator's storage pouch. You jest, Manager Jin. Li Chang'an replied with a smile of his own. With my meager cultivation, a single glare from a foundation establishment great cultivator would turn me to dust. How would I dare try to rob such an expert? I happened to find these treasures by chance in a secret realm cave mansion. A secret realm cave mansion. I knew it. Taoist Li, you're a man blessed with great fortune. After some light-hearted banter, Jin Yue began to take inventory. After a moment, he offered a reasonable price. Chapter 174, Chapter 164, Unexpected Harvest Encountering Possession. That's 8,000 spirit stones in total. Taoist Li, would you like them in low-grade spirit stones, or shall I exchange them for 80 middle-grade spirit stones? Low-grade spirit stones, please. Li Chang'an replied without hesitation. Cultivators in the Qi refining and foundation establishment stages mostly use low-grade spirit stones. The spiritual power in these stones is quite sparse. Middle-grade spirit stones, on the other hand, contain much richer spiritual power. A single one is comparable to over 100 low-grade spirit stones. However, middle-grade spirit stones were rare. Many spirit stone mines can't produce stones with such dense spiritual power. They can only be mined from the core regions of a few specific mines. It was rumored that major sects like the Cyan Cloud sect had methods to forcibly extract the spiritual power from hundreds of low-grade spirit stones and concentrate it into a single stone, creating a middle-grade spirit stone. But Li Chang'an had only heard rumors and had never seen it done. Taoist Li, here are your spirit stones, please count them. Jin Yue put away all the treasures and handed over a storage pouch. All right. Li Chang'an took the storage pouch and counted the contents, confirming there were 8,000 spirit stones. As for the storage pouch holding the spirit stones, it was included for free. Manager Jin, I'd like to buy a few more treasures. Name them, Taoist Li. As long as the 10,000 treasures tower has it, I will certainly bring it out for you. That's good to hear. Li Chang'an directly handed him a list. On it were some of the treasures he needed to break through to Tier 2 body refinement. Jin Yue took the list and was startled by what he saw. Most of the treasures on it were common, but a few were so precious they made his heart pound. Taoist Li, are you sure about these? Jin Yue swallowed, thinking Li Chang'an was joking with him. What would a mere qi refining 7th layer cultivator do with so many treasures? Li Chang'an sighed, a helpless look on his face. I'm not buying them for myself. A friend of mine needs these treasures, but he's reclusive and doesn't like interacting with people, so he asked me to help. I see. Jin Yue was immediately somewhat convinced. After all, Li Chang'an himself couldn't possibly have a use for so many treasures. Jin Yue thought for a moment and figured that the friend Li Chang'an mentioned was most likely a Foundation establishment great cultivator. The 10,000 treasures tower has all of these treasures, but Taoist Li, you'd better have your spirit stones ready. Don't worry, Manager Jin, I have enough spirit stones. Excellent, please wait a moment, Taoist Li. Jin Yue got busy. His figure flickered as he rushed back and forth between the floors. He soon gathered all the treasures Li Chang'an required. Seeing these treasures, Li Chang'an couldn't help but reflect. The resources in King Marketplace were truly barren. In the past, just to gather the treasures for Tier 1 body refinement, he had to go to great lengths to find people and trade for them one by one. But now, he needed higher-tier treasures for Tier 2 body refinement, and he could buy them directly from the 10,000 treasures tower. It saved him a lot of time and effort. Jin Yue tallied up all the treasures, calculated the price, and finally gave a staggering number. Taoist Li, the total is 15,000 spirit stones. Are you sure you want to buy them? I'm sure. Li Chang'an felt a slight pang in his heart, but he had expected as much. The path of body refinement was, by its very nature, extremely resource-intensive. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few body cultivators. There's no point in having too many spirit stones. I need to convert them into personal strength as soon as possible. Li Chang'an thought to himself. He didn't hand over the spirit stones directly. Instead, he haggled a bit and successfully knocked a few hundred spirit stones off the price. After that, he asked about the nether soul crystal. Jin Yue looked troubled and explained that the 10,000 treasures tower didn't currently have such a treasure, but he would ask around for Li Chang'an. For a period of time after that, Li Chang'an visited the treasure pavilion, the mysterious treasure hall, and other establishments, and even made a few trips to the black market. He sold off the things he didn't need in batches, and he continuously purchased the treasures required to break through to Tier 2 body refinement. In the end, Li Chang'an had gathered most of the treasures. Only a few of the rarer items remained, such as the essence blood of a Tier 2 dragon-type demon beast, which he was still trying to acquire. His net worth had also shrunk considerably, with less than 20,000 spirit stones left in his storage pouch. The resources needed to break through to Tier 2 body refinement are truly immense. It's a massive amount. How many ordinary loose cultivators could ever gather so much? Li Chang'an reflected. Forget about qi refining loose cultivators. Even many Foundation establishment, great cultivators without sufficient savings, couldn't produce that many spirit stones to buy body refining resources. Fortunately, Li Chang'an had already saved up a large sum of spirit stones back in King Marketplace. After arriving in Yellow Crane Immortal City, he had killed Lu Yuanji, the Blood and Fire Three Brothers, the Poison Cultivator Songzio, and others in succession. He had grown by killing, and the path he walked was practically soaked in blood. He was more of a tribulation cultivator than the tribulation cultivators themselves. This was because nearly all the people he killed were celestial prides. For this very reason, he was able to come up with so many spirit stones. If I had just honestly stuck to talisman painting, puppetry, and alchemy, who knows how long it would have taken to gather this many spirit stones. But it's not like I went looking for trouble. All these guys brought it on themselves. Li Chang'an had a clear conscience. He had never laid a hand on an innocent person. That evening, Jin Yue came to him with a piece of news. Taoist Li, I have a lead on the nether soul crystal you need. Thank you for your trouble, Manager Jin. Where can I buy a nether soul crystal? Li Chang'an asked, pouring him a cup of spirit tea. Jin Yue replied, Taoist Jai Menjian has a nether soul crystal and is willing to sell it. Jai Menjian. Hearing this, Li Chang'an felt a sense of relief. He had heard of her. She was Pei Yingyao's disciple. With the connection to Pei Yingyao, buying the nether soul crystal shouldn't be difficult. He immediately took out some spirit stones as a reward to thank Jin Yue. Manager Jin, please also keep an eye out for the essence blood of a Tier 2 dragon-type demon beast. Rest assured, Taoist Li, your business is my business. Jin Yue accepted the spirit stones with a broad smile. He had other matters to attend to, so he didn't stay long and quickly departed. That night, Li Chang'an was soaking in a medicinal bath, continuing to temper his physique. He planned to find Jai Menjian the next day to trade for the nether soul crystal and upgrade his venerable soul banner to Tier 2. Just then a golden light appeared. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, neutral. You visit Jai Menjian and are unexpectedly targeted by an evil soul from her sword. It attempts to possess you but fails, forcing it to retreat. It then continues to corrupt Jai Menjian, trying to possess her body instead. An evil soul, possession. Li Chang'an was startled. He had long heard of possession, but this was the first time he had ever encountered it. According to legend, some extremely powerful great cultivators who suffered accidents that destroyed their bodies would possess a junior with a suitable spiritual root. The juniors who were targeted for possession were almost always exceptionally talented. They had to have a top-grade spirit root at the very least. For this very reason, Li Chang'an was a bit confused. Is my lowly low-grade spirit root even worth possessing? Chapter 175, Chapter 165, Grave Peril, the Death of Li Chang'an. Jai Menjian was a celestial pride with a top-grade spiritual root, so it made sense she would be targeted for possession. But Li Chang'an himself only had a low-grade spirit root. The evil soul from the divination had actually been willing to abandon Jai Menjian and try to possess him instead. Could it be that I have some special trait the evil soul noticed? Li Chang'an was puzzled. His thoughts turned to his divination ability. It was the most unique thing about him, and he still had no idea where it came from. Besides that, there was his divine sense, which far surpassed that of other cultivators at his level. Oh well, since the possession attempt failed, there's no need to worry too much. Li Chang'an carefully examined the divination result several times. The divination result was neutral, which indicated that this matter would have little impact on him. As long as he proceeded with the trade as normal, everything would be fine. The next day, just as the sky began to brighten, Li Chang'an was preparing to head out and visit Jai Menjian. But a sudden visit from Zhang Qingqing interrupted his plans. Taoist Li, the matter of exterminating the Wu family went quite smoothly. She sat in the courtyard, recounting the events to Li Chang'an. As she spoke, she took out the spirit-breaking alms bowl and returned it to Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, this treasure of yours was a great help. I'm glad it could help. Li Chang'an smiled, putting the spirit-breaking alms bowl back into his storage pouch. He had watched the battle very carefully. The spirit-breaking alms bowl had indeed been useful. But it wasn't as crucial as Zhang Qingqing made it sound. The clan protection array at the Wu clan territory wasn't a single array, but several interlocking Tier 2 arrays. The spirit-breaking alms bowl alone would not have been enough to break through. Zhang Qingqing had used several types of array-breaking treasures. The spirit-breaking alms bowl was only one among them. After wiping out the Wu family, she seemed much more relaxed than usual. With a smile, she took out a storage pouch and opened it in front of Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, as I promised, since the battle went smoothly, you will receive a share of the treasures from the Wu family treasure vault. This share of treasure was his payment for lending out the spirit-breaking alms bowl. Although Li Chang'an hadn't been there in person, his treasure had, which counted as his participation in the battle. Please take a look, Taoist Li, and see if there's anything you need. Very well, in that case I won't be modest. Li Chang'an smiled. He certainly wasn't going to refuse treasures that were being handed to him. It was perfect timing. His personal wealth had taken a serious hit after purchasing body-refining treasures, and he was in dire need of more spirit stones. He took the storage pouch and glanced inside, quickly spotting several useful treasures. All of them were items needed for Tier 2 body refinement. Lady Zheng, I can make use of several of these treasures. Li Chang'an didn't stand on ceremony and began to make his selections. Zheng Qingqing said nothing more, simply letting him take his pick. Before long, Li Chang'an had chosen his treasures and placed them into his storage pouch. With this, he had gathered nearly all the remaining treasures required to break through to Tier 2 body refinement. The only thing he still lacked was the essence blood from a Tier 2 dragon-type demon beast. In fact, he had even collected a small portion of the treasures he would need for his body refinement after the breakthrough. Is there nothing else you need, Taoist Li? This is all. Li Chang'an understood the principle of not being too greedy. After all, he had only lent a single treasure. Taking too much would inevitably breed resentment. It's best to be reasonable. Zheng Qingqing put away the storage pouch and went on to discuss the aftermath of the battle. Just as Li Chang'an had guessed, the entire Wu clan territory had been taken over by the Zheng family. The resources the Wu family had possessed, such as spirit fields, spiritual ore veins, and spirit lakes, had all been absorbed by the Zheng family. Even the small qi refining clans that had once sworn fealty to the Wu family had now changed their allegiance, pledging themselves to the Zheng family instead. The battle's impact was immense. It sent shockwaves through the entire Qinghe region. The various powers in the Qinghe region now realized that the Zheng family, with its 3 foundation establishment members, had reached a truly terrifying level of strength. Even the Cao family had begun to retract its sphere of influence. However, one thing was giving Zheng Qingqing a headache. The Tier 2 spirit vein in the Wu clan territory lacked a foundation establishment great cultivator to stand guard over it. If things continued like this for long, it would likely attract the covetous gazes of other powers. Hearing this, Li Chang'an chuckled. It seems that even though you are in the immortal city, Lady Zheng, you can't escape worrying about your family's affairs. That's true, I'm not as free and unfettered as you, Taoist Li. Zheng Qingqing chuckled softly. Having said her piece, she prepared to leave. Just before she left, she suddenly brought up the mysterious foundation establishment powerhouse. Taoist Li, the Wu family ancestor, Wu Lianshan, is dead. You no longer need to worry. He was slain by a mysterious powerhouse at the middle stage of foundation establishment. As she spoke, her lovely eyes shifted, and her gaze rested on Li Chang'an's face for a moment. Li Chang'an let out a sigh of relief, his expression visibly easing. That's good to hear. Thank you for telling me, Lady Zheng. It's nothing. However, you should still be wary of the Cao family, Taoist Li. I worry that Cao Xiaolong will make another move against you. Zheng Qingqing noted the change in Li Chang'an's expression. She shook her head slightly, realizing she had been overthinking things. With Li Chang'an's strength, it would be impossible for him to kill a foundation establishment great cultivator. Even if he's hiding his true cultivation, he couldn't possibly be hiding an entire major realm, could he? With this thought, Zheng Qingqing didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Around noon, Li Chang'an left his residence and headed for Yellow Crane Mountain. Before long, he arrived at the foot of Yellow Crane Mountain and stood outside a residence. Is Taoist Jai present? My name is Li Chang'an. I heard you wish to sell a nether soul crystal, so I've come to discuss the matter. Li Chang'an, my master has mentioned you before. A clear female voice soon came from within the residence. The courtyard gate opened. The person who appeared before Li Chang'an was a young female cultivator dressed in black, a longsword at her waist. She had a heroic air about her, and her overall temperament was somewhat similar to Pei Yingyao's. It was none other than Jai Menjian. Please come in, Taoist Li. All right. Li Chang'an nodded and entered her courtyard. His gaze discreetly swept over the longsword at her waist, and he detected an intensely vicious aura emanating from it. Chapter 176, Chapter 165, a dire omen, the death of Chang'an. It exuded such a menacing aura even while sheathed. It was truly unnerving. Could this sword have been dug up from some ancient battlefield? At that moment, Jai took out a crystal stone and placed it on the stone table in front of Chang'an. Taoist Li, this is the nether soul crystal you needed. Take a look. Her personality was much like Pei Yingyao's, and she didn't bother with idle chatter. Chang'an shifted his gaze to the crystal stone. The crystal stone was pitch black and faintly emanated a cold, sinister qi. Inside, a cluster of black mist swirled erratically, resembling an imprisoned soul. This was the exact nether soul crystal he needed. He immediately proposed the trade. Taoist Jai, how much are you asking for this nether soul crystal? 3,000 spirit stones. If you can produce them, Taoist Li, this nether soul crystal is yours. Jai was very straightforward, asking for spirit stones directly instead of bartering, which saved a lot of trouble. Chang'an was more than happy with this arrangement. The two quickly signed a trading spirit contract. The deal was done. After completing the transaction, Chang'an asked a question. Taoist Jai, these nether soul crystals are extremely rare. Where did you manage to find this one? The Bloodstone Secret Realm. Jai voice was clear as she replied crisply. There were several secret realms near Yellow Crane Immortal City, such as the ancient wood secret realm that Chang'an had previously visited. The Bloodstone Secret Realm was another one, its entrance also located within the Black Dragon Mountain Range. The difference was that the Bloodstone Secret Realm had no towering ancient trees, only an endless expanse of blood-red earth. The land was covered in traces of brutal battles, with bones and shattered magical artifacts, corroded by time, scattered everywhere. Many cultivators speculated that it was an ancient battlefield. It was far more dangerous than the ancient wood secret realm. All sorts of strange monsters frequently appeared there. As a sword cultivator, Jai often entered it to slay monsters and hone her killing sword intent. We sword cultivators should walk the ultimate path of slaughter. Some, however, try to balance offense and defense, which is truly a lesser path. What do you think, Taoist Li? She stared intently at Chang'an as she asked. Chang'an smiled but didn't argue. Taoist Jai has a point. I knew you would understand, Taoist Li. You're truly worthy of master's praise. After receiving his affirmation, a faint smile finally appeared on Jai perpetually indifferent, pretty face. Taoist Li, I found this nether soul crystal while training in the Bloodstone Secret Realm. I also found my sword there at the same time. As she spoke, Jai unfastened her sword and placed it on the stone table. With a thought, Xianxia, the longsword slid from its sheath. The blade wasn't sharp. Instead, it was covered in mottled marks, as if it had been corroded by time into a useless piece of scrap. But the dense, menacing aura it contained was not something to be taken lightly. Chang'an was inwardly shocked. This was the first time he had ever seen a treasure with such a potent, menacing aura. Jai explained, Taoist Li, when I saw this sword, it was thrust into the skull of an ancient cultivator's corpse. The moment I laid eyes on it, I felt a connection to it. A connection? Chang'an thought, this probably isn't a good kind of connection. Just as he was thinking this, a wave of sinister coldness suddenly washed over him. It felt as if a snarling, malevolent spirit was trying to invade his body. It's here. Chang'an's expression grew solemn. This was the possession attempt the divination had foretold. In the next instant, he faintly heard a shrill scream. The sinister, cold qi rapidly retreated, as if it had touched something lethal, and withdrew back into the rust-stained longsword. Just as the divination had indicated, the evil soul's possession attempt had failed. The evil soul hadn't even managed to enter Chang'an's body. Just then Jai noticed something was amiss and asked, Taoist Li, are you feeling unwell? Indeed I am. Chang'an rubbed the spot between his eyebrows, a puzzled look on his face. Taoist Jai, your sword makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. I suspect it might be tainted with something strange from the secret realm. You're overthinking it, Taoist Li. Jai was unconcerned. She explained that the menacing aura on the sword was so dense that it was normal for ordinary cultivators to be unable to withstand it. Taoist Li, your cultivation is insufficient, so you're affected by the menacing aura, but I'm different. Jai was very confident. She was completely unafraid of the menacing aura's influence, and could even use it to hone her own killing sword intent. Furthermore, this treasure sword was of too high a tier for her to refine at the moment. However, she had discovered that the longer she tempered herself in the menacing aura, the greater her control over the treasure sword became. Perhaps the moment she fully adapted to the menacing aura would be the moment she could completely refine the treasure sword. After she finished speaking, Chang'an secretly scoffed. The moment she fully adapts to the menacing aura will most likely be the moment she's completely possessed. But he didn't say this out loud, only offering another reminder. Taoist Jai, it's best not to be overconfident when dealing with treasures from ancient secret realms. Do you remember the monster that wreaked havoc on Yellow Crane Mountain? Of course I remember. Jai Minjian understood what Chang'an was implying. But her personality was like her sword Dao. Once she set her mind on something, she would never change it. Besides, he was full of confidence, certain she could master this sword. There's no need to worry, Taoist Li. My master has also seen this sword and agrees with my approach. This is a matter for us sword cultivators. You wouldn't understand. Very well then. Chang'an sighed softly. He had said all he could. Since even Pei Yingyao saw no problem with it, there was no point in him saying anything more. A moment later, Chang'an took his leave and returned to his residence. That evening, Chapter 177, Chapter 165, Great Misfortune, the Death of Chang'an. He sat cross-legged and took out the venerable soul banner and the nether soul crystal from his storage pouch. This is the nether soul crystal you wanted, eat. As soon as his voice fell, a thick black mist surged from the venerable soul banner, instantly devouring the nether soul crystal. The black mist did not dissipate. Instead, it grew even thicker. Chang'an had long since refined the venerable soul banner. As its master, he could sense that it was undergoing a transformation. Within the black mist, the venerable soul banner's aura grew stronger and stronger, as if it were being completely reborn. A moment later, it was all over. The black mist slowly dissipated, revealing the venerable soul banner, which had now been upgraded to Tier 2 low grade. Immediately after, a faint voice emerged. Thank you, Master. Don't mention it. Chang'an raised a hand, calling it to him. He grasped the banner and carefully sensed the changes within. At this moment, the venerable soul banner was still imperfect and had not yet returned to its former tier, but its power was already greatly enhanced. With a single thought, he began to refine Wu Lianshan's soul, which was sealed inside the banner. This refinement went very smoothly. Before long, Chang'an had an additional Tier 2 main soul that he could command at will. This Tier 2 main soul, empowered by the venerable soul banner, is strong enough to contend with a cultivator in the early stage of foundation establishment. Chang'an was very satisfied. With this, he had another foundation establishment level method. Over the next half-year, the uproar over the Wu family's annihilation gradually died down. The Zheng family's status rose with the tide, and they became a popular topic of discussion in the immortal city. Naturally, the main topic of conversation was Zheng Qingqing, a young, beautiful, and powerful female cultivator at the foundation establishment stage. Chang'an heard that many male foundation establishment cultivators had expressed their desire to become her Dao companion, including even powerful experts in the late stage of foundation establishment, but she had not agreed. Later, some people who heard that Chang'an had a good relationship with Zheng Qingqing came to his door, asking him to put in a good word for them. This gave Chang'an quite a headache. What's the use in asking me? He hung a sign on his door indicating he was in seclusion and stopped receiving any visitors. Another few months passed like this. Finally, no one was bothering him anymore. During this time, he often wandered through the immortal city's trading district and the black market, hoping to find a hidden gem like a Tier 2 demon core or a high-grade foundation establishment spiritual object, but he never had any luck. On this day, Chang'an, using his identity as Li Fan, came to the black market once again. He was just about to see if there were any suitable treasures. Just then, Luo Beidong suddenly found him and asked gravely, Taoist Li, were the Feng Taoist and the Jin brothers really killed by you? For some time now, a rumor had been circulating in the black market. It said that Li Fan, in order to monopolize the treasures from the secret realm cave mansion, had ruthlessly killed the other 3 people who had gone with him. If that wasn't the case, why had the Feng Taoist and the Jin brothers completely vanished? Because of this rumor, everyone's fear of Li Fan grew even more. But Li Chang'an didn't care. He asked casually, Taoist Luo, we're both tribulation cultivators. Why bother with such pointless talk? So what if I really did kill those three? Be that as it may, someone has been investigating you recently. Luo Beidong's expression was grave as he sent a secret sound transmission. Li Chang'an was taken aback. Who's investigating me? People from the Jin family. No, it's Huang Liang, a disciple of the Foundation establishment great cultivator Murong Kang, from the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage. So it's him. Li Chang'an fell into thought. It seemed that Murong Kang had already found out he had killed Huang Feng. However, he wasn't worried. The identity of Li Fan was fake anyway, so he had no fear of being investigated. Luo Beidong sent another sound transmission, Taoist Li, that Huang Liang is being very discreet with his investigation. Luckily, my network is wide enough that I was able to figure out his identity and purpose. You should be careful. Li Chang'an nodded. I understand, thank you, Taoist Luo. Also, I suspect that the Feng Taoist was actually Huang Feng, a disciple of the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage. Luo Beidong shared his suspicion. Li Chang'an didn't say much. The fewer people who knew that the Feng Taoist was Huang Feng, the better. If this matter blew up, it would surely cause a huge uproar. After all, the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage had always presented itself as part of the righteous Tao. How could one of its disciples be a tribulation cultivator? At that point, the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage, to save face, would surely investigate the matter with all its might. Li Chang'an had no desire to directly confront the entire host of cultivators from the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage. By the way, Taoist Li, Huang Liang is also investigating someone else, Luo Beidong spoke again. A loose cultivator named Li Chang'an, do you know him? Never heard of him. Li Chang'an's expression didn't change, but a cold killing intent rose within him. As Huang Feng's senior brother, Huang Liang had often advised him and devised plans for him. He'd had a hand in most of the previous incidents. In Li Chang'an's mind, this man deserved to die just as much as Huang Feng. He just hadn't found the right opportunity to kill him. Now, it seemed that opportunity was ripening. Since Huang Liang had to come to the black market to gather information, then the road from Yellow Crane Immortal City to the black market would be the perfect place to strike. Thinking this, Li Chang'an instructed Luo Beidong, Taoist Luo, I'll trouble you to keep an eye on Huang Liang's movements. If this is done well, I will reward you handsomely. No problem. Luo Beidong nodded gravely and accepted the task. For some time after that, Huang Liang came to the black market several more times to ask about Li Fan and Li Chang'an. He came very frequently, showing up every few days. On this day, Luo Beidong found Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, that Huang Liang came again. Based on his previous pattern, he'll be back in another 3 to 5 days. Good, thank you for your trouble, Taoist Luo. Li Chang'an immediately gave him a generous reward. Afterwards, he set up dozens of puppets along the road between Yellow Crane Immortal City and the black market, lying in wait for Huang Liang and looking for the right moment to strike. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. That night, Li Chang'an calculated the time. He should be coming soon. He was very patient, waiting in silence. With his current strength, he could kill even a Foundation establishment cultivator, to say nothing of a chi-refining cultivator like Huang Liang. However, at midnight that night, a divination result appeared that Li Chang'an had not foreseen at all. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, great misfortune. You ambush Huang Liang but are blocked by his protective treasure. Huang Liang calls out to the Huang He Master for help, naming his potential assailants, and your name is among them. The Huang He Master captures you. Discovering the great fortune you carry, he uses every cruel method imaginable to interrogate you. You are tortured for 6 months straight until, finally, your very soul is annihilated. My soul annihilated. Li Chang'an's expression changed drastically. This wasn't a simple death. It was complete annihilation, with no hope of ever walking the reincarnation path. There would be no next life. What kind of horrifying methods could torture a living person until their very soul was annihilated? Chapter 178, Chapter 166, Killing Huang Liang in a Dream. Li Chang'an had originally thought this assassination would go smoothly. But the results of the divination left him deeply shaken. In the past, even when the divination indicated great misfortune, he had only ever been severely injured. But this time, it predicted his soul would be utterly destroyed, a death more final than any other. Huang He Master. Li Chang'an's eyes narrowed as he looked in the direction of Yellow Crane Mountain. He felt both wary and furious. He had never once provoked the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage, yet cultivators from that line constantly forced him into perilous situations. From Huang Feng to Murong King, and now to Huang He Master. Given Huang He Master's perspective as a golden core cultivator, he would surely understand who was right and who was wrong if he just listened to Li Chang'an's side of the story. But according to the divination, he would still be tortured by the man until his soul was destroyed. Perhaps in his eyes, the rights and wrongs of an ant like me are completely irrelevant. Only fortuitous encounters matter. This matter, I'll have to plan this out carefully. Li Chang'an took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing all his emotions. With his current strength, confronting Huang He Master would be no different from courting death. Rumor has it that before Huang He Master made a name for himself, his methods were indistinguishable from those of a tribulation cultivator. He burned, killed, and plundered, stopping at no evil. It seems those rumors weren't groundless after all. Li Chang'an frowned, lost in thought for a long time. He didn't want to confront Huang He Master directly, but Huang Liang was still investigating him relentlessly. Though nothing had been uncovered yet, he couldn't afford to take any chances. This man, he had to kill him. He wouldn't just kill Huang Liang, he would eliminate Murong King, the man backing him as well. And if he became strong enough in the future, he would utterly crush the entire Yellow Crane Mountain lineage. The words "soul utterly destroyed" were now seared into his mind, impossible to forget. One step at a time, I'll kill the small fry first. Li Chang'an took a few more deep breaths. The problem now was, how could he kill Huang Liang without drawing out Huang He Master? According to the divination, I failed to kill Huang Liang on the first try. His protective treasure blocks me, giving him a chance to call for help. Li Chang'an pondered. With his current strength, any move he made would be a foundation establishment technique. Yet Huang Liang was somehow able to block it. The man must have a treasure capable of withstanding an attack from a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, or maybe even one with golden core power. In other words, whether by a frontal assault or a sneak attack, the chances of killing him instantly were slim. He would have to resort to special means. Poison. The thought came to Li Chang'an subconsciously. His 10,000 poison goo was already a Tier 1 peak. Having devoured numerous poison Dao treasures, it had a profound foundation. The colorless, odorless poison it could release might be enough to kill Huang Liang. But he was worried Huang Liang would realize he'd been poisoned and call for help from Huang He Master right before he died. Unless he used an illusion poison to trap him in an illusion realm, letting him die without ever knowing he'd been poisoned. A Tier 1 peak illusion poison isn't foolproof. It would be best if I could get the 10,000 poison goo to advance to Tier 2. Li Chang'an spent a sleepless night, lost in thought for a long time. The next day, he went to the black market again and found Luo Beidong, asking him to keep an eye out for valuable poison Dao treasures. Over the following period, Luo Beidong found several types of poison Dao treasures for him. Li Chang'an bought all of them and fed them to the 10,000 poison goo, but the little creature never managed to advance. Still missing something. He shook his head slightly, feeling no need to rush. This was not something that could be hurried. If he got too impatient and made a mistake, he could fall into Huang He Master's hands again and be tortured to death a second time. 2 months later, Jin Yue from the 10,000 Treasures Tower sent word that 2 Earth Element Advancement treasures had arrived. Li Chang'an immediately went to buy them. Each of these 2 treasures could increase the success rate by 5%, and their effects could be stacked. At this point, the Earth Element Advancement treasures in Li Chang'an's possession could, when combined, increase the success rate of advancement by over 40%. And that wasn't even counting the Demon Heart Fruit. The Demon Heart Fruit could temporarily elevate a demon beast's bloodline grade. During this time, Li Chang'an had read a great deal of information about the Demon Heart Fruit and now understood the spirit medicine's specific effects. If Dawang consumed the fruit, Its bloodline would be temporarily elevated from middle grade to top grade. The temporary boost would last long enough for it to complete its advancement. A top-grade bloodline demon beast already has a decent chance of breaking through to Tier 2. With the addition of these advancement treasures, it shouldn't fail. Li Chang'an thought to himself. Da Huang had been a Tier 1 peak for a long time and had an incredibly deep foundation. With the help of all the treasures Li Chang'an had collected, if it still failed, it could only be blamed on bad luck. I'll have it try to advance tomorrow. Li Chang'an completed the transaction, put away the 2 treasures, and was about to leave the 10,000 treasures tower. Just then, 2 figures with strikingly similar auras suddenly stepped into the 10,000 treasures tower. It was none other than Pei Yingyao and Jai Minjian, the master and disciple pair. Elder Pei, Taoist Jai. Li Chang'an stopped and cupped his fists in salute. Pei Yingyao nodded slightly, her gaze lingering on him for a moment. His cultivation at the Qi refining 7th layer surprised her slightly. She had always felt that Li Chang'an relied too heavily on external items and had neglected his own training, thinking he would likely get stuck at the bottleneck between the middle and late stages of Qi refining. She never expected Li Chang'an to break through so smoothly. At that moment, Jai Minjian raised her sword toward Li Chang'an. Taoist Li, I've completely adapted to this sword's baleful aura. I may be able to complete its refinement very soon. The things you worried about never came to pass. Then congratulations, Taoist Jai. Hearing this, Li Chang'an glanced at the sword again. The baleful aura on the sword was even denser than before. Perhaps the evil soul is about to complete its possession of Jai Minjian. Chapter 179, Chapter 166, Dream-Slaying Huang Liang. After listening to them, Pei Yingyao suddenly spoke up. Li Chang'an, what are you worried about? Li Chang'an replied, Elder Pei, the baleful aura of this sword is far too dense. It's not normal. After all, it's from a secret realm, so we should treat it with caution. There's no need to worry. I've already inspected the sword. The only reason its baleful aura is so dense is that it has killed too many cultivators. An aura like this will not harm Minjian. What Pei Yingyao said was similar to what Jai Minjian had said before. A baleful aura could be used to hone one's killing intent. Upon hearing this, Li Chang'an said no more. He cupped his hands and took his leave. On the way back, he thought to himself in silence. The divination revealed an evil soul that not even a foundation establishment great cultivator could detect. Just how powerful must it have been when it was alive? If I could capture it in my venerable soul banner, I would have another trump card. But for now, it was just a thought for Li Chang'an. He had no way of dealing with something so bizarre at the moment. The next day, Li Chang'an began preparing for Da Huang's advancement. He rented a Tier 2 cave mansion and set up a grand array to ensure he would not be disturbed. Da Huang, I've done everything I can. Whether or not you succeed is up to you now. He took out all the treasures and placed them before Da Huang in one go. The total value of these treasures was far greater than those used for the profound water turtle's advancement. Bark, bark. Da Huang's eyes filled with gratitude, its tail wagging so fast it became a blur. Meeting a master like Li Chang'an was the greatest fortune of his life. Don't get too excited. Calm yourself. You can't have any major emotional fluctuations during your advancement. Li Chang'an smiled, advising him with care. He was willing to help his 2 spirit beasts advance partly to increase his own power, and partly because they were both extremely loyal. If not for the warnings from his divinations, they both would have died long ago fighting to protect him. A moment later, Li Chang'an slowly backed away to the cave mansion's entrance, sat down cross-legged, and began to stand guard as Da Huang advanced. Da Huang began to regulate his qi and calm his emotions. Before long, he swallowed the demon heart fruit, temporarily raising his bloodline to top grade. About a quarter of an hour later, he opened his great maw again and with a sharp inhale, swallowed all the remaining treasures. Rumble! In that instant, an immense power erupted from his body, causing the entire cave mansion to shudder. Immediately following that, his aura began to surge, instantly breaking past the limits of Tier 1. The advancement had officially begun. He has to succeed. Li Chang'an watched in silence. Time ticked by, and before he knew it, several hours had passed. Fortunately, perhaps because his foundation and the treasures were sufficient, the advancement process went very smoothly. About 8 minutes later, Da Huang roared at the heavens. His aura skyrocketed as he finally broke through his shackles and entered a new realm. A Tier 2 great demon. Seeing this, Li Chang'an finally relaxed, a smile spreading across his face. He did it. And with that, both of his spirit beasts were now Tier 2 great demons. With the two of them to protect him, his future cultivation path would be much more secure. A few days later, Li Chang'an went to the black market again and received some good news. Luo Beidong found him and said, "Taoist Li, a friend of mine obtained a blood poison lotus while exploring the ancient wood secret realm. It's an exceptionally rare Tier 2 poison Tao treasure." "Oh, Taoist Luo, where is this friend of yours?" Li Chang'an's interest was piqued, and he asked eagerly. His 10,000 poison goo was on the verge of advancing. The little worm had consumed far too many poison Tao treasures. The treasures from Xianxia, the 5 poison wanderers' disciple, and those from the poison cultivators in the secret realm had all been fed to it. Perhaps with just 1 or 2 more high-quality treasures, it would be able to advance. Luo Beidong answered, "Taoist Li, my friend is still inside the secret realm. He used a flying bird spirit beast to send me a sound transmission. He'll be out in 3 days. Rest assured, I've already reserved the blood poison lotus for you." Excellent. 3 days was not a long time, but it wasn't short either. Li Chang'an could only hope that Luo Beidong's friend wouldn't meet with any mishap in the secret realm. 3 days later, Li Chang'an, using his identity as Li Fan, headed to the black market once again. He hadn't yet entered the black market when he suddenly stopped. Who is Luo Beidong in a standoff with? Li Chang'an narrowed his eyes. Outside the black market, 2 groups of tribulation cultivators were in a standoff. The leader of one group was none other than Luo Beidong. The leader of the other group was a woman wearing a black veil. The 2 sides were at daggers drawn, and the atmosphere was tense. "Taoist Luo, what's going on here?" Li Chang'an approached and called out. The moment he saw him, Luo Beidong breathed a sigh of relief and said hurriedly, "Taoist Li, quick over here. These people are trying to snatch your blood poison lotus." "Oh?" Li Chang'an was surprised to find the matter was related to him. He immediately moved to Luo Beidong's side and looked at the group opposite them. Just then the black-veiled woman across from them spoke, her voice clear and cold. "Taoist Luo, I simply wish to purchase the blood poison lotus. When did I ever try to snatch it?" "Taoist Mo, I've already told you that this blood poison lotus has been reserved by Taoist Li. If I were to sell it to you, wouldn't that make me a man who goes back on his word?" Luo Beidong's attitude was firm as he replied coldly. As he spoke, a faint glow flashed in his hand, revealing a lotus that was dark red all over. It was the blood poison lotus. The moment this treasure appeared, the 10,000 poison goo in Li Chang'an's sleeve began to convey a sense of intense longing. It seems this treasure will be of great benefit to the 10,000 poison goo. Li Chang'an thought to himself. Luo Beidong said to him, "Taoist Li, this is the blood poison lotus. As we agreed, you owe me 3,200 spirit stones." Chapter 180, Chapter 166, Slaying Huang Liang in a Dream. "All right." Li Chang'an immediately took out the spirit stones and signed a spirit contract with him. The transaction was quickly completed. And just like that, the precious poison Tao treasure lotus was in Li Chang'an's hands. Witnessing this, the woman opposite them spoke again, her eyes glinting. "Taoist Li, that item is of great use to me. I'm willing to pay more to buy it from you." "Taoist Mo, this item is just as important to me." Li Chang'an cupped his hands. He was in no mood to waste time here. He just wanted to get back as quickly as possible to see if the 10,000 poison goo could evolve. However, the woman suddenly signaled to the people beside her. "My apologies, Taoist Li." The moment she finished speaking, the people beside her moved in unison, surrounding Li Chang'an, Luo Beidong, and the others. Luo Beidong's expression changed slightly, and he immediately sent a sound transmission to Li Chang'an. "Be careful, Taoist Li. This woman is Mo Wanwen, the younger sister of the Black Puppet Pavilion's pavilion master. Her strength is not to be underestimated." Black Puppet Pavilion. Li Chang'an frowned. He had actually wanted to get on good terms with this faction, since the Black Puppet Pavilion's pavilion master possessed a Tier 2 puppet inheritance. But now they were acting unreasonably, clearly intending to rob him of his treasure. "Looks like we'll have to fight first." With a single thought, a soul banner radiating a sinister, ghostly aura appeared in his hand. Upon seeing the soul banner, the members of the Black Puppet Pavilion all revealed wary expressions. Mo Wanwen spoke up, "Taoist Li, why must it be like this? We are both members of the Three Tribulations Alliance. I mean no harm, I simply wish to buy the treasure lotus from you." "If you mean no harm, Taoist Mo, then why don't you have your people stand down?" Li Chang'an's expression was cold, and he refused to yield in the slightest. Mo Wanwen, however, was also unwilling to back down, clearly dead set on forcibly buying the item. Seeing this, Li Chang'an wasted no more words. With a great wave of his hand, the soul banner began to flutter. Whoosh! Gusts of ghostly wind howled as a black mist spread out, instantly engulfing everyone present. The faint, mournful wails of countless vengeful ghosts seemed to echo from within the black mist. Luo Beidong hurriedly shouted, "Taoist Li, don't accidentally injure one of your own." "Rest assured, Taoist Luo." Li Chang'an brandished the venerable soul banner, preparing to eliminate the members of the Black Puppet Pavilion. Just then, a deep and powerful man's voice suddenly rang out from a distance. "All of you stop." Li Chang'an turned toward the sound. The man was dressed in a black robe, and his strength was impressive. He emanated the aura of the Qi refining peak. "Taoist Li, this is all a misunderstanding. My younger sister is too willful. I apologize to you on her behalf." He came closer, cupping his hands as he apologized. Li Chang'an frowned and asked, "You must be the pavilion master of the Black Puppet Pavilion, Mo Feng." "That is correct. It is a pleasure to meet you, Taoist Li." Mo Feng was very courteous. His tone was amicable, showing not the slightest hint of hostility. "Taoist Li, would you be willing to put away the soul banner? My younger sister has gone too far this time. I will be sure to teach her a lesson." "All right." Li Chang'an had no desire to make an enemy of the Black Puppet Pavilion in the first place. With a casual wave of his hand, the swirling black mist all around flowed back into the venerable soul banner. The area returned to a state of clarity. The many cultivators from the Black Puppet Pavilion had looks of lingering fear on their faces. Once engulfed by the black mist, they had lost nearly all of their senses, as if they had been plunged into an abyss. The sensation had been utterly unbearable. Only Mo Wanwen looked unresigned, as if she intended to press the attack. But Mo Feng stopped her, his tone stern. "That's enough, little sister. Stop this nonsense." With a wave of his hand, he unleashed several Tier 1 peak puppets, which moved to block Mo Wanwen directly. Then he cupped his hands toward Li Chang'an. "Taoist Li, you and your friends may leave without worry. The Black Puppet Pavilion was in the wrong here, and I hope you can forgive us." "Very well." Li Chang'an said nothing more. He immediately turned and entered the black market with Luo Beidong and the others. Outside the black market, Mo Wanwen felt aggrieved. "Brother, why did you stop me? If I hadn't stopped you, should I have just stood by and watched you get killed? Are you not aware of how formidable that Li Fan is?" Mo Feng chided, his face stern. Upon hearing this, Mo Wanwen was instantly indignant. "Brother, he's just relying on that venerable soul banner. His own strength is that great. As long as I can block the soul banner's power for a moment and find his real body, I can definitely kill him." "Enough, go back immediately. You are confined to your quarters for 3 months." Mo Feng's face was livid, his anger barely contained. Mo Wanwen's gaze flickered away, not daring to meet his. She could only lower her head dejectedly and accept her punishment. Inside the black market, Luo Beidong and the others let out a sigh of relief. "Taoist Li, that Mo Wanwen is completely unreasonable. You'll have to be extra careful of her in the future." "I understand." Li Chang'an didn't linger in the black market for long. The longing transmitted by the 10,000 poison goo was growing increasingly intense. After exchanging a few more words with Luo Beidong, he hurriedly left the black market and returned to Yellow Crane Immortal City. Such an intense craving, could it really be about to evolve? Li Chang'an mused. He had already studied the goo insect inheritance and knew that this particular goo insect's evolution process was quite special. It didn't require a Tier 2 spiritual land. As long as it had sufficient treasures, it could evolve anywhere. But to be on the safe side, Li Chang'an still went and rented a Tier 2 cave mansion. Then he took out the blood poison lotus and placed it before the 10,000 poison goo. "Aid." The 10,000 poison goo immediately conveyed feelings of joy and excitement as it crawled onto the blood poison lotus and began to devour it in large bites. About a quarter of an hour later, the entire blood poison lotus had been devoured. Under Li Chang'an's watchful gaze, the tiny insect began to slowly spin silk, weaving an insect cocoon around itself. It really is evolving, just as I thought. Li Chang'an felt relieved. This behavior was the exact sign of evolution recorded in the goo insect inheritance. However, that goo insect inheritance was only Tier 1 top grade and didn't describe what would happen when the 10,000 poison goo broke through to Tier 2. Li Chang'an sat cross-legged inside the cave mansion and waited quietly. Chapter 181, Chapter 166, Killing Huang Liang in a Dream. Just like that, he waited for 3 full days. In the evening on the 3rd day, the insect cocoon suddenly trembled, as if something was about to emerge from within. Is it about to emerge from its cocoon like a butterfly? Li Chang'an stared intently, his heart filled with curiosity. However, what emerged from the cocoon was no butterfly. It was still a small, plump little bug, its body shimmering with 7 colors. The aura it emanated had already reached Tier 2. The advancement went smoothly enough. Li Chang'an communicated with the little bug for a moment. He learned that its strength had been greatly enhanced in all aspects. Its poison mist now posed a fatal threat even to experts in the early stage of Foundation establishment. After that day, Li Chang'an once again began lying in wait for Huang Liang. Huang Liang, unaware that danger was closing in, continued his usual routine. Every few days, he would leave Yellow Crane Immortal City and head to the black market to ask for news about Li Fan and Li Chang'an. Before long, an opportunity presented itself to Li Chang'an. According to Huang Liang's habit, he'll pass through this valley again tomorrow or the day after. This is the only route he takes from Yellow Crane Immortal City to the black market. He arrived outside a valley and quietly lay in wait. That night at midnight, the divination appeared as usual. Divination has been refreshed. Today's divination, Auspicious trigram. You will use the 10,000 poison goo's illusion poison to successfully kill Huang Liang. No accidents will occur. An auspicious trigram. Li Chang'an breathed a sigh of relief, a smile spreading across his face. His theory had been correct. The illusion poison method could indeed kill Huang Liang without alerting Huang He Master. The next day at sunrise, a figure appeared on the horizon. It was Huang Liang. He was passing through the valley as usual, on his way to the black market to gather information. Suddenly, he froze. His gaze was fixed on the cliff face to one side of the valley. Rocks on the cliff face had fallen away, revealing the small entrance to Cultivator's abode. A predecessor's abode. Huang Liang's heart leaped with joy. This is a great opportunity. He remained vigilant as he slowly approached the abode. After some probing, he confirmed that the abode was protected by an array, but it was already dilapidated. Before long, he broke through the array and entered the abode, where he saw a decaying corpse. In front of the corpse lay a storage pouch. This junior, Huang Liang, thanks you, senior, for leaving behind this legacy. Huang Liang bowed respectfully, offering his solemn thanks. Then he controlled a puppet to retrieve the storage pouch. Upon opening it, a look of elation spread across his face. Inside the storage pouch was a complete golden core legacy. Golden core, a golden core legacy. Huang Liang's expression was ecstatic as he muttered to himself. He never would have imagined he would have such a great opportunity. To avoid any mishaps, he didn't dare linger. He skipped his trip to the black market and hurried back to Yellow Crane Immortal City. After that, he used the Foundation Establishment pills and Foundation Establishment spiritual objects from the storage pouch to successfully break through to the Foundation Establishment realm. On the day of his Foundation Establishment ceremony, countless fellow disciples came to congratulate him. Even the senior sister who once looked down on him now spoke to him in gentle whispers, showing him the utmost consideration. Later on, Huang Liang's cultivation path grew smoother and smoother. Soon, he cultivated to the late stage of Foundation establishment, and by another stroke of great fortune, obtained a nascent soul legacy. After several more decades, he successfully achieved core formation, and the quality of his golden core was superb. On that very day, Huang He Master announced that he would pass control of the entire Yellow Crane Immortal City to him. Yellow Crane Immortal City. Huang Liang stood atop the high peak of Yellow Crane Mountain, gazing down at the vast immortal city below. In that moment, he was unrivaled, his spirit soaring. In the years that followed, he became a legend in the Zhao country cultivation immortality realm, climbing higher and higher until he reached the threshold of the nascent soul realm. Finally, amidst rolling heavenly thunder, he successfully achieved a realm breakthrough. He became a nascent soul expert. Haha, today I, Huang Liang, have achieved nascent soul formation. Huang Liang laughed heartily, his heart filled with incomparable joy. After achieving nascent soul formation, he was no longer satisfied with Yellow Crane Immortal City, and instead established his own cultivation immortality family. From that day forward, the Huang family became the only nascent soul family in the entire Zhao country. As the family's patriarch, Huang Liang's status was revered. He enjoyed endless splendor and fugue and witnessed the world's endless cycles of change. However, the progress of his cultivation began to slow. Before he knew it, several hundred years had passed. He was now ancient, having reached the end of his 1,000-year lifespan. Ultimately, he failed to break through that final barrier to become a legendary divinity transformation celestial monarch of the cultivation immortality realm. Sigh. Huang Liang let out a soft sigh, his body filled with the stench of decay. A few years later, his breath grew faint as he lay on his sickbed. He could vaguely hear the wails of his countless clan members outside. He had reached the end of his life. Just then, a young voice suddenly echoed in his ear. Soul comes. Huang Liang shuddered. Immediately after, his soul left his body. He was astonished to find the surrounding scenery slowly disappearing. The enormous family, the countless clan members, everything was like a reflection in a mirror or the moon's reflection in water. Illusory and hazy, it all vanished like mist and smoke. My entire life was just one long dream. Chapter 182, Chapter 167, hiring me to kill myself. He awoke from the grand dream. For a moment Huang Liang was lost, staring blankly at his surroundings. Everything was gone. He had never received a golden core legacy, nor had he become a nascent soul ancestor. The moment he stepped into the valley, he had fallen into an illusion. When he awoke, he was still in the valley, but his body had already fallen, leaving only his soul behind. Huang Liang stared at his own corpse, dazed for a long while. Why did it turn out like this? He couldn't accept it, he muttered under his breath. Chang'an appeared before him, holding the venerable soul banner. Taoist Huang, it's time for you to enter the venerable soul banner. It's you're Li Fan, no, you're Chang'an. Huang Liang suddenly raised his head, staring daggers at Chang'an. He looked utterly crazed. He lunged forward, roaring, Chang'an, let me go back. Let me see my family again. Perhaps the illusion had lasted so long that he could no longer tell dream from reality. Or perhaps he could tell the difference, but simply refused to. Taoist Huang, why don't you go into the soul banner and clear your head? Chang'an shook his head slightly and tossed his soul into the venerable soul banner. Then he looked down at Huang Liang's corpse. Does Huang Liang's body also contain a bloodline? Chang'an wondered. He walked over, took Huang Liang's storage pouch, and removed his protective treasure armor. The treasure armor was a deep, dark color and felt weightless in his hands, a testament to its extraordinary materials and forging process. Chang'an attempted to refine it, but the process was difficult. To speed things up, he borrowed some power from the profound water turtle and quickly completed the refinement. A Tier 2 top-grade spirit armor, the Netherworld Tribulation armor. A pleased expression appeared on Chang'an's face as he received the armor's information. The quality of this Netherworld Tribulation armor was far superior to the 5-element spirit armor he currently wore. If he were suddenly attacked, it would automatically release a shield of spiritual power, capable of blocking an attack from a cultivator at the late stage of Foundation establishment. No wonder my previous plan to ambush and kill Huang Liang failed. He had a protective treasure like this all along. It seems he was quite a fortunate person. What made this armor so valuable was that it was attributeless. Any cultivator, regardless of their spiritual root, could use it to its full potential. For this very reason, Chang'an was so pleased. He immediately swapped it for his 5-element spirit armor. Then he unleashed a wave of sword chi at Huang Liang's corpse. Slice. The sword chi sliced across Huang Liang's neck. It didn't sever it but left a deep gash. Within the wound, scarlet, thread-like veins were clearly visible. It really is a bloodline. Li Chang'an had suspected it ever since he killed Huang Feng. The one practicing the demon planting technique was most likely Huang Feng's master, Murong Kang. Now, the bloodline inside Huang Liang's corpse seemed to confirm his suspicion. It is said that the blood seed technique allows one to ignore the limits of their spiritual root. Even someone with an inferior spirit root could defy their fate and reach the nascent soul realm. Li Chang'an recalled the rumors. At the same time, his thoughts turned to his own spiritual root. My spiritual root is considered quite poor, even among low-grade spirit roots. If I could obtain the demon planting technique, perhaps I could go much further on my path of cultivation in this lifetime. This cultivation technique is heretical, but as long as I stay true to myself and don't harm the innocent, it will be fine. As long as he held to his principles, his path of cultivation would not go astray. He wouldn't end up a crazed and wicked fiend. With this in mind, Li Chang'an glanced in the direction of Yellow Crane Immortal City. He already had a grudge against Murong Kang. The suspicion that Murong Kang was a practitioner of the demon planting technique gave him yet another reason to make a move. However, killing a single Huang Liang had been enough to provoke Huang He Master. To kill a Foundation establishment cultivator from the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage like Murong Kang, he would have to be exceedingly cautious and plan meticulously. There was no room for error. I shouldn't have much trouble with my own Foundation establishment. Until then, I don't need to worry about my spiritual root. I'll set this matter aside for now. Li Chang'an took a deep breath, pushing these thoughts aside. Then, he dealt with Huang Liang's corpse the same way he had dealt with Huang Feng's, using a burning talisman to reduce the body to ashes. He burned the remains several times over. Then he used a sword array to grind the ashes to dust. Finally, he had Da Huang use the power of the earth element to bury all the soil from the area deep underground. Once all this was done, Li Chang'an lingered no longer and sped away from the area. Not long after, he found a remote mountain, went deep underground, and began to inspect the treasures inside Huang Liang's storage pouch. Huang Liang was already at the qi refining 9th layer. Of course, he would have prepared something for his Foundation establishment. Inside the storage pouch, Li Chang'an discovered a Foundation establishment spiritual object. Cyan Leaf Dew. It was a common Foundation establishment spiritual object that could increase the success rate by 10%. This kind of treasure's effect could only be stacked with that of a Foundation establishment pill. It couldn't be used in conjunction with other Foundation establishment spiritual objects. This is worse than the 7-leafed colored lotus I have. I'll just have to sell it. Besides, I'm a bit short on funds right now. The spirit stones in Li Chang'an's storage pouch had nearly run out. Raising spirit beasts and goo insects already consumed a great deal, and the path of body refinement was like a bottomless pit, ceaselessly devouring his cultivation resources. He carefully put away the cyan leaf dew and continued to examine the other treasures. After a moment, Li Chang'an discovered an oddly shaped jade scroll. The jade scroll was completely blank, with nothing recorded inside, but it emanated a strange power. Li Chang'an probed it briefly and discovered that the power seemed to have a faint connection to Yellow Crane Immortal City. Could this be the treasure Huang Liang used to call for help from Huang He Master? Li Chang'an's brows furrowed. Feeling a sense of unease, he immediately wiped his aura from the jade scroll and threw it deep into the earth. Chapter 183, Chapter 167, Hiring Me to Kill Myself. After he was done, Li Chang'an destroyed the underground space, cast an escape technique, and sped far away. About half an hour later, he entered the Black Dragon Mountain range, using the dense demon chi within to conceal his aura. Then he continued to inspect the treasure in the storage pouch. Every time he found a suspicious item, he would toss it deep underground, flee far away, and find a new location to continue his inspection. He repeated this process more than 10 times. Li Chang'an finally finished inventorying the treasure in the Huangliang storage pouch. Finally, he transferred all the treasure into his own storage pouch and destroyed Huang Liang's. This should be safe now. Meanwhile, Kang arrived in the valley, his expression grim. He stared intently at the spot where Huang Liang had died. This damned waste, how did he get killed just like his junior brother? Kang was filled with such rage that he wished he could resurrect Huang Liang, just to kill the man himself. For years, he had pretended to be a good master, painstakingly nurturing the two of them. It was also that once their cultivation was high enough, he could devour the bloodline within them. But now, all of it had come to nothing. Who was it? Who the hell was it? Unable to contain his fury, Kang tilted his head back and roared at the heavens. Just then, a calm voice spoke. What has happened? Why have you lost your composure? Startled, Kang quickly turned and bowed. Disciple greets master. There is no need for such ceremony. The speaker was none other than Huang He Master. With a placid expression, he sent out a wave of spiritual power to lift Kang to his feet. Tell me, what is this all about? Master, both of my disciples have been murdered, and the killer has yet to be found. Oh? Huang He Master's brow furrowed slightly. He remembered Kang's two disciples. One of them, named Huang Liang, bore a striking resemblance to a childhood friend of his. For that reason, he had specially granted him a communication treasure to call for help in times of danger. And yet Huang Liang was dead. But he had received no message calling for aid. It must have been a Foundation establishment cultivator. Only a Foundation establishment cultivator could kill Huang Liang in an instant, leaving him no time to call for help. At this thought, a flicker of anger sparked within Huang He Master. A Foundation establishment cultivator preying on the weak, murdering a disciple of my Yellow Crane Mountain lineage. This is unforgivable. But Master, the person destroyed all traces. Kang said. He had already tried every method at his disposal, but all had failed. He couldn't find even a single clue. Huang He Master surveyed the area, then shook his head. No traces are needed. I will ask an old friend for help. His divination skill has reached Tier 3, which is more than enough to deduce who did this. At this moment, Chang'an was still deep underground within the Black Dragon Mountain range. He planned to wait one more night. If the divination showed no issues, he would then return to Yellow Crane Immortal City. If he knew what Huang He Master was planning, he would have been astonished. The 100 skills of cultivation immortality. Reaching Tier 2 was already incredibly difficult, let alone Tier 3. And what's more, it was the notoriously difficult divination skill. Unlike skills such as making talismans or alchemy, this one consumed not only time, but life itself. Only by sacrificing one's lifespan could one obtain certain accurate divinations. For this very reason, cultivators who practiced the divination skill were often sallow-faced and gaunt, with a perpetually sickly appearance. Time flew by, and before he knew it, it was midnight. The divination appeared. It showed a neutral divination, indicating no impending surprises. Looks like this matter is safely concluded. Chang'an breathed a sigh of relief. He set off at once, returning to Yellow Crane Immortal City overnight to resume his cultivation. 3 days later. The night was deep. Chang'an sat cross-legged, circulating his cultivation technique and absorbing spiritual power. Just then, a new divination materialized before his eyes. Divination refreshed. Today's divination, neutral. Huang He Master has invited a Tier 3 divination master to deduce your identity. However, the divination master suffered a backlash during the attempt, was gravely injured, and dares not try again. A divination master. Chang'an's eyes flickered as he carefully read the content of the divination. He was genuinely surprised. He had always been the one using divinations against others. But now, a divination master was trying to come after him. A Tier 3 divination master. That's considered top tier in the entire Zhao country cultivation immortality realm, isn't it? This skill is so difficult to cultivate. Those who reach Tier 3 are as rare as a phoenix's feather. Chang'an mused. If I were just an ordinary cultivator, this Tier 3 master would most likely have figured me out. But I have the daily divinations. The tier of this thing is clearly higher than Tier 3. It has reached the legendary state of divine concealment, making it impossible to scry. Both are forms of divination. but comparing that Tier 3 master to my own divinations is like comparing a firefly to the bright moon. I don't need to worry about this. I just need to focus on my cultivation. A smile touched Li Chang'an's lips as he resumed his cultivation. The next day, around noon, as Li Chang'an was cultivating, he suddenly felt a strange sensation. Has the Tier 3 master begun his scrying? He looked up toward Yellow Crane Mountain, deep in thought. An instant later, the sensation vanished as if it had never been there. Meanwhile, on Yellow Crane Mountain Peak, inside the main hall, an old man in a gray robe suddenly went deathly pale and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura plummeted, and his body fell backward, stiff as a board. Taoist Wang, what happened? Huang He Master rushed forward to support him. The gray-robed old man opened his mouth as if to speak, but only coughed up several more mouthfuls of blood. Then, every time he tried to speak, the words turned to blood in his mouth. He couldn't utter a single word. Chapter 184, Chapter 167, Hire Me to Kill Myself. The aura around him continued to plummet. As if struck by heavenly retribution, he instantly shriveled into a bag of bones, looking for all the world like a living skeleton. This terrifying sight made the many disciples of Yellow Crane Mountain in the Grand Hall turn pale. A heavenly backlash. Huang He Master's expression was grave. He had never seen a backlash this severe. He was only trying to divine the identity of a murderer. Why would something like this happen? Could that person be a divination master as well? After quite some time, the gray-robed elder managed to recover slightly. Fear was written all over his face. He shook his head repeatedly, not daring to attempt another divination. Dipping his finger into his own blood, he painstakingly wrote 6 words on the ground. Cannot be said, cannot be said. After writing this, he ignored Huang He Master's pleas for him to stay. As if terrified beyond measure, he fled Yellow Crane Immortal City at top speed. Huang He Master stood outside the Grand Hall, hands clasped behind his back. He watched the man's retreating figure, his expression slowly turning grim. After that day, Li Chang'an's divinations consistently showed calm, and no other incidents occurred. His cultivation life grew much more peaceful. Before he knew it, more than half a year had flown by. So much time has passed, the matter should have blown over by now. Li Chang'an mused. He had quite a few treasures that he had taken from the Huangliang storage pouch. However, because he was worried about an investigation from the Yellow Crane Mountain lineage, he had yet to sell them at the black market. I'll go to the black market tomorrow and sell the treasures, but first, I should check tonight's divination. Li Chang'an was extremely cautious. After all, this involved Huang He Master. He couldn't afford to be careless. At midnight, the divination appeared as usual. It showed calm, just as expected. Li Chang'an breathed a sigh of relief. The next day, he went to the black market, changing his identity over a dozen times as he sold off the treasures he had no use for. The foundation establishment spiritual object attracted bids from multiple parties at a small auction and ultimately sold for the high price of 8,000 spirit stones. My storage pouch is finally a bit heavier. Li Chang'an looked at the spirit stones he had acquired, feeling quite satisfied. In the days that followed, he continued his cultivation and body refinement as usual, occasionally browsing the trading districts and the black market. Following the hints from his divinations, he would occasionally find an overlooked treasure. This peaceful cultivation continued for another half-year. Until one day, as he was browsing the black market for overlooked treasures as usual, Luo Beidong suddenly found him. Taoist Li, he said, someone wants to hire you to kill 2 people. Hearing this, Li Chang'an wasn't particularly concerned. The reputation of his alias, Li Fan, was considerable. Many had heard of him, both among the ranks of tribulation cultivators and those of the righteous Tao. As a result, people often sought him out to eliminate their rivals. If the targets were wicked and deserved to die, he wouldn't refuse. After all, he could earn a reward and take his target's storage pouch. Why wouldn't he? Li Chang'an asked casually, Taoist Luo, who is the target this time? Luo Beidong answered, 2 cultivators from Yellow Crane Immortal City. One is named Li Chang'an, the other Su Fugui. Oh? Li Chang'an froze. Someone wants to hire me to kill myself. He had never encountered anything so bizarre. During his time in Yellow Crane Immortal City, he and Su Fugui had never offended the same person. Logically, a situation like this should never have occurred. But an image of a person quickly flashed through Li Chang'an's mind. Su Fugui's second senior brother, Mo Chen. At this thought, he immediately asked, "Taoist Luo, where is the client? I'd like to speak with him alone." "Follow me, Taoist Li. The client is in a private room." Luo Beitong immediately led the way for Li Chang'an. Before long, the two arrived at a dimly lit room. Inside the room was a cultivator dressed in a black robe and wearing a black mask. Although he had concealed his aura, Li Chang'an, with his pupil of truth, saw through the disguise almost instantly. It really is him. The man was none other than Mo Chen. Li Chang'an's thoughts churned, but he calmly sat down across from Mo Chen. "How should I address you, fellow Taoist?" "My surname is Yi." "So, Taoist Yi, you want my help eliminating 2 cultivators from Yellow Crane Immortal City?" "That's right." Mo Chen nodded gravely and slowly pushed a spirit contract across the table toward Li Chang'an. The terms on the spirit contract were written clearly. It was willing to pay a reward of 1,000 spirit stones for killing Su Fugui. If Li Chang'an was also killed, he would add another 500. After reading the spirit contract, Li Chang'an grumbled to himself. "Seriously, I'm worth less than Fugui. Is that all my life is worth?" It was clear that Mo Chen desperately wanted Su Fugui dead. Li Chang'an couldn't help but think of Su Fugui's third senior brother, Gu Shangxing. His death had been highly suspicious. Thinking about it now, it was probably related to Mo Chen as well. "Taoist Yi, give me 3 days. I need to investigate the backgrounds of these 2 individuals." "There's no need to investigate." Mo Chen seemed a bit impatient. He explained directly. "Su Fugui is the disciple of the Foundation Establishment great cultivator Wang Fun, while Li Chang'an is just an ordinary loose cultivator. With your abilities as Li Fan, killing them won't be difficult." Why the rush, Taoist Yi? One must plan before making a move." Li Chang'an shook his head slightly and pushed the spirit contract back. Mo Chen took a deep breath, seeming to realize he had been too eager. "Very well, Taoist Li. I will give you 3 days. You can give me your answer then." "No problem." And so the two came to an agreement. Luo Beidong, standing to one side, was slightly confused. He knew very well that Li Chang'an only ever killed those who were steeped in sin. Yet Su Fugui and Li Chang'an didn't seem to be heinous villains, but merely 2 honest and dutiful cultivators of the righteous Tao. Just then, Li Chang'an's sound transmission echoed in Luo Beidong's mind. "Taoist Luo, Senior Wang Fun once did me a great favor. I cannot possibly kill his disciple. Please keep this matter confidential." Hearing this, Luo Beidong was taken aback. He quickly recovered and immediately sent a sound transmission in reply. "Rest assured, Taoist Li, no one else will ever know of this." With that said, he glanced at Mo Chen. He knew in his heart that although Mo Chen was still alive, he was already a dead man. Chapter 185. Chapter 168. Fugui is shocked. Pei Yingyao admits her mistake. "Taoist Li, in 3 days I will return for your answer." After reaching an agreement, Mo Chen said no more and walked straight out of the dark room. He did not linger in the black market, quickly leaving and heading toward Yellow Crane Immortal City. However, halfway there, Li Chang'an's figure suddenly appeared before him. "Taoist Li." Mo Chen's expression turned wary. He quietly took out his magical artifact and stared at Li Chang'an. "Have you already made up your mind? Do you intend to sign the spirit contract with me now?" "Not quite. Are you aware that Elder Wang Fun once did me a great service, and yet you want me to kill his disciple?" Upon hearing this, Mo Chen's face changed drastically. He never would have imagined that hiring a tribulation cultivator would lead him to one who had received his own master's favor. Whoosh! Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and fled. "As long as I can get back to the black market, I'll be safe. There's a rule against fighting in the black market." But he hadn't gotten far when a thick black fog completely engulfed him. "Taoist Li, spare me." Mo Chen's face was filled with terror as he hastily begged for mercy. He had long heard of Li Fan's reputation and knew he was no match. A direct confrontation would be a death sentence, but begging for his life offered a sliver of hope. In the next instant, 2 souls of the Qi refining 9th layer appeared before him. Mo Chen wouldn't be a match even for one of them alone, let alone two. In the blink of an eye, he was tightly bound, stripped of all ability to resist. He's not killing me, Mo Chen thought to himself as a glimmer of hope sparked in his heart. A moment later, the surrounding black fog dispersed. Li Chang'an, holding the venerable soul banner, walked up to him and spoke coldly. I want to know why you want to kill Elder Wang Fun's disciple. If you utter a single false word, you'll be joining my venerable soul banner. As he spoke, he gave a command to the 10,000 poison goo in his sleeve, ordering it to release some toxins that would agitate the emotions. Taoist Li, spare me. I am also Elder Wang's disciple. At this point, Mo Chen didn't dare hide anything. After the brief struggle, his disguise had been torn away, revealing his true face. My name is Mo Chen. I am Elder Wang's second disciple. Oh? Li Chang'an seemed a little surprised. He asked lightly, since you are fellow disciples, why try to kill each other? Is it to fight over some treasure? Yes, Taoist Li, you've guessed correctly. Mo Chen's face paled slightly as he confessed everything. His talent was not high. Without a great opportunity or his master's help, he would never have a chance at foundation establishment in this lifetime. I originally thought that since Master doesn't have much time left, the four of us could divide his treasures equally after he died. But Master is just too biased toward Su Fugui. As he spoke, a hint of resentment crept into Mo Chen's voice. The toxins from the 10,000 poison goo were gradually taking effect. His motive was more or less what Li Chang'an had guessed. In the face of treasure, the so-called bond between fellow disciples was fragile enough to shatter at a single touch. Mo Chen continued, I've tried to get him several times but never succeeded. Last time, I went so far as to hire a disciple of the 5-poison wanderer to poison him at the banquet. I was on the verge of success, but that sworn brother of his, Li Chang'an, ruined everything. So you want to kill Li Chang'an as well? Yes. Hearing this, another of Li Chang'an's questions was answered. The poison cultivator from the last banquet had indeed been hired by Mo Chen. It was he who had provided the poison cultivator with the information that Wang Fun would be leaving the restaurant to visit a friend. Thinking of this, Li Chang'an asked coldly, You hired a poison cultivator. You didn't just want to kill Su Fugui, did you? That's right, I want to kill them all. Mo Chen clenched his fists, his words full of resentment. Li Chang'an asked again, I heard that Elder Wang's third disciple died in a secret realm. Were you involved in that? Yes, I did it. At this moment, Mo Chen was filled with resentment, and his emotions were extremely volatile, so he quickly confessed to the matter. He had spared no expense to hire Lu Yuanji, the big master of Black Wind Mountain, and had revealed Gu Shangxing's whereabouts to him. Lu Yuanji was a veteran of the Qi refining 9th layer with a deep foundation. Killing Gu Shangxing, who had only recently advanced to the Qi refining 9th layer, was more than easy for him. Furthermore, the poisoning of his eldest martial sister, Tang Suren, was also related to him. It was he who had revealed Tang Suren's location to those poison cultivators. My eldest martial sister and third martial brother are both geniuses. They could have reached foundation establishment even without Master's help, but geniuses like that deserve to die. Mo Chen gritted his teeth, his emotions growing more and more agitated. His face was warped by jealousy. All geniuses deserve to die. Only after they're all dead will I have my chance to shine. Once all the geniuses are dead, then I'll be the new genius. Only then will the elders be willing to nurture me. Mo Chen's eyes were bloodshot, and his voice was hoarse. Under the influence of the toxins, he had become somewhat crazed. He stared at Li Chang'an and roared, Taoist Li, you should be able to understand me. Everyone says your talent is average and your strength is mediocre, that you only get by because of your venerable soul banner. You and I are the same kind of person. We're not geniuses. Hearing this, Li Chang'an let out a cold laugh. It's true I'm not a genius, but why should I understand you? With that said, he casually waved his hand, sending out a burst of spiritual power. With a crack, Mo Chen's head flew into the air, a trace of madness still lingering on his face. Li Chang'an made a casual gesture, tossing his soul into the venerable soul banner. Afterward, he walked to the side and picked up a memory stone. He had placed this memory stone here at the very beginning of the interrogation. After that, every single word Mo Chen said was recorded in its entirety by the memory stone. Although Fugui has become more tactful than before, he still has too little experience and doesn't understand the wickedness of the human heart. Hopefully, this stone will help him see some things more clearly. Chapter 186, Chapter 168, Fugui is shocked, Pei Yingyao admits her mistake. Li Chang'an sighed softly and put away the memory stone. Back when he left the village, he had promised Su Fugui's parents that he would take good care of him. But he couldn't possibly watch over Su Fugui every single moment. He could only help him mature as quickly as possible. He returned to Mo Chen's body, took his storage pouch and treasures, and burned the corpse to ashes. This man was a Foundation establishment disciple, after all. He operated in Yellow Crane Immortal City for so many years. There should be plenty of treasures in his storage pouch. Li Chang'an easily removed the restriction on the storage pouch and opened it to take a look. The treasures inside were not as numerous as he had imagined. Perhaps it was because Mo Chen had hired people multiple times to attack his 3 fellow disciples, spending a lot of spirit stones. Li Chang'an quickly finished taking inventory. Among them, only one treasure caught his attention. This is... With a thought, a long incense stick appeared in his hand. This long incense stick was entirely pitch black and emanated a cold, sinister qi, making one feel deeply uncomfortable just looking at it. With Li Chang'an's current knowledge, he couldn't immediately tell what this incense was for. Just then, a weak voice suddenly came from the venerable soul banner. Soul-attracting incense can draw out a soul. Soul-attracting incense. Li Chang'an was slightly startled, and a description of this kind of treasure immediately surfaced in his mind. He had seen it before in a book from the 10,000 Treasures Towers collection. Some cultivators encounter accidents during their cultivation, causing their souls to leave their bodies. If the soul cannot be recalled in time, the physical body will decay, its life force will wane, and ultimately it will have no choice but to walk the reincarnation path. If they could find a soul-attracting incense stick and light it quickly enough, they could recall the soul. As for what the venerable soul banner's artifact spirit said about drawing out a soul, that referred to a different situation. Some souls do not originally belong to a body but have forcibly occupied it, usurping another's place. In this situation, one could also light a soul-attracting incense to draw it out. This is quite a treasure. If I ever have an accident during cultivation that causes my soul to leave my body, I'll have Dawang light the soul-attracting incense. A smile appeared on Li Chang'an's face. This was a pleasant surprise. According to the records in that book, soul-attracting incense was extremely rare, something even a Foundation establishment great cultivator would have trouble finding. For Mo Chen to have one in his storage pouch must have been a stroke of luck on his part. Not long after, Li Chang'an returned to the black market. He found Luo Beidong and handed him the memory stone. Taoist Luo, could you do me a favor? Find an errand runner and have this memory stone delivered to Su Fugui at the Yuelai restaurant. All right. Luo Beidong was quite reliable. He didn't find an errand runner. Instead, he used his righteous Tao identity and made the trip himself. Soon, the memory stone was delivered into Su Fugui's hands. Taoist, what is the meaning of this? Su Fugui didn't understand and wanted a clear explanation. Luo Beidong gave a mysterious smile and said, Taoist Su, you'll understand after you watch the contents of this memory stone. After speaking, he didn't linger and turned to leave. Su Fugui frowned, his guard raised. He had long since learned some of Li Chang'an's cautiousness. He didn't activate the memory stone directly, but instead retreated to a distance and controlled a puppet to view its contents. The moment the image appeared, Su Fugui was stunned. Second senior brother. What happened next made his eyes grow wider and wider in disbelief. After watching it all, Su Fugui seemed to turn to stone, standing rooted to the spot for a long time. He truly couldn't believe that his second senior brother, Mo Chen, would actually try to harm him. All this time, he had looked up to Mo Chen as an older brother, and Mo Chen had treated him almost like a real younger brother. But he couldn't find any flaws in the images and sounds from the memory stone. The several attacks Mo Chen mentioned also matched what had actually happened. Could it be? Have I been deceived by second senior brother all this time? Su Fugui's gaze was vacant as he stared blankly at the memory stone. At that moment, he suddenly recalled Li Chang'an's words. On the very first day Li Chang'an had arrived in Yellow Crane Immortal City, he had warned him that there was something wrong with Mo Chen. But he hadn't paid it any mind at the time, simply thinking it was a misunderstanding because Li Chang'an didn't know Mo Chen well. But now the truth was laid out right before his eyes. That evening, Li Chang'an was in his residence, cultivating. Su Fugui suddenly came to visit. He said remorsefully, "Big brother, I misunderstood you before. There really is something wrong with my second senior brother, Mo Chen." "Oh, what kind of problem?" Li Chang'an feigned ignorance and asked. Su Fugui then recounted the entire matter from beginning to end. He said that he had his eldest senior sister and master both look at it, and the images in the memory stone were almost certainly real. In other words, if Mo Chen hadn't died, he and Li Chang'an would have been killed sooner or later by the tribulation cultivator Mo Chen had hired. "Big brother, I didn't listen to you and almost dragged you down with me." Su Fugui was filled with regret. It would have been one thing if he died himself, but he couldn't drag Li Chang'an down with him. In the recording, that tribulation cultivator was simply too strong. With a heaven-defying treasure like the venerable soul banner, if he had really attacked, Li Chang'an most likely wouldn't have been able to stop him. After he finished speaking, Li Chang'an smiled. "It's fine. I have an array protecting my residence. An ordinary tribulation cultivator can't do anything to me." "Brother Li, he's no ordinary tribulation cultivator. That Li fan is quite famous in the black market now. I've heard that even Foundation establishment great cultivators can't handle him." "He's that strong?" "Yes." Su Fugui began recounting some of the rumors, some of which even Li Chang'an himself had never heard. "This isn't a good thing. After all, as one's fame grows, there will come a day when, like Lu Yuanji, I'll end up being blamed for things I didn't do. Fortunately, Li Fan is just a fake identity. If I provoke an enemy that's too strong." Chapter 187, Chapter 168, Fugui is shocked, Pei Yingyao admits she was wrong. He would just get a new identity. Li Chang'an's skin painting technique had reached a rudimentary, entry-level state, allowing him to create single-use human skins. Changing his identity wasn't difficult for him, just a bit of a hassle. The two of them talked late into the night. Su Fugui took his leave. Before leaving, he felt Li Chang'an's residence wasn't safe enough and suggested that Li Chang'an move into the Yulai restaurant. "Big brother, my second senior brother just died, so his rooms are vacant. Why don't you move into the Yulai restaurant? The restaurant is protected by a Tier 2 array, making it much safer than out here." "It's fine, I'm quite comfortable living here." Li Chang'an smiled and saw Su Fugui out of the courtyard. Yulai restaurant had Wang Fun, a Foundation establishment cultivator. Cultivating under his watchful eye for a long time would inevitably be restrictive. Besides, the Yulai restaurant's array wasn't necessarily better than the 19 interlocking grand arrays Li Chang'an had dismantled from the cave estate. For a time after that, Li Chang'an's life continued as usual. His progress in both chi refining and body refinement increased steadily. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. One night in the residence, steam rose and the foul, metallic stench of a medicinal liquid filled the air. Li Chang'an had reached the final step of the 9th stage of body refinement. At this moment, his entire body was crimson and steaming, like a cooked prawn. The medicinal liquid in the bath barrel churned constantly, a deep scarlet color, like a vat of boiling blood. Li Chang'an's brow was tightly furrowed, and beads of sweat the size of peas dripped continuously from his forehead. He was in excruciating pain. It felt as if every one of his bones was being shattered, every inch of his flesh torn apart and reformed. The agony was beyond words. This agony continued late into the night. Finally, Li Chang'an suddenly felt his whole body lighten. The excruciating pain vanished instantly. The medicinal liquid in the barrel stopped boiling and gradually grew calm. "The 9th stage of body refinement, I've done it." Li Chang'an slowly let out a breath of relief. Wiping the sweat from his brow, a smile appeared on his face. Once again, his body refinement progress had outpaced his chi refining. From now on, he could withstand the attacks of an ordinary chi refining 9th layer cultivator. Next, he just needed to consume some more chi blood treasure medicine to completely solidify his physique realm. And he could attempt to break through to Tier 2 body refinement. Unfortunately, I still haven't found any Tier 2 dragon-type demon beast essence blood. A few days later, Li Chang'an went to the 10,000 Treasures Tower. He found shopkeeper Jin Yue and asked about the situation regarding this type of essence blood. This time, Jin Yue had some news for him. Taoist Li, dragon-type demon beasts are simply too rare, and their essence blood is even more precious. The 10,000 Treasures Tower has none in stock at the moment, but I recently heard that Elder Pei has a sample. Which Elder Pei? The female sword immortal Pei Yingyao. Jin Yue spoke a name that was very familiar to Li Chang'an. However, although Pei Yingyao had the essence blood, she had no intention of selling it. Hearing this, Li Chang'an couldn't understand. Pei Yingyao doesn't practice body refinement, nor does she know alchemy. What could she possibly want with demon beast essence blood? The next day, he went to visit Pei Yingyao to ask about the essence blood. Pei Yingyao patiently explained, demon beast essence blood can be used to nurture a sword. My personal sword needs to drink blood often to maintain its killing intent, and dragon-type demon beast essence blood is especially effective. Nurturing a sword with blood. Li Chang'an felt a bit helpless. It seemed this essence blood was not destined to be his. He had no choice but to take his leave. Time flew by, and more than a month passed. Li Chang'an still hadn't found any dragon-type demon beast essence blood, but his physique realm had been completely stabilized. He had become a true Tier 1 peak body cultivator. A few days later, Li Chang'an went out again, planning to first check with the 10,000 Treasures Tower. If the tower still had nothing, he would go find Zhang Qingqing. Hopefully, Zhang Qingqing will have this kind of essence blood. Before long, he arrived at the 10,000 Treasures Tower. Before he even had a chance to ask, Jin Yue spoke first. Taoist Li, you've come at the perfect time. I was just about to look for you. Look for me. Li Chang'an was taken aback. Manager Jin, has something happened? It's Elder Pei. She suddenly posted a reward today, urgently seeking a stick of soul-attracting incense. She hasn't found one yet. Jin Yue spoke quickly, his tone urgent as he explained the situation. Early this morning, Pei Yingyao had visited every shop in Yellow Crane Immortal City, wanting to buy a stick of soul-attracting incense. But this kind of treasure was too precious, and ordinarily no one had any use for it. None of the major shops kept it in stock. Another one of my Jin family's shops does have soul-attracting incense, but it's too far from Yellow Crane Immortal City. Elder Pei is in such a hurry that it would be too late even if we had it sent over. Now Pei Yingyao has put out the word. Whoever can find her a stick of soul-attracting incense will earn a favor from her. This favor can be exchanged for a treasure from her collection. Or you can ask her to take action on your behalf once. Jin Yue said to Li Chang'an, for Elder Pei to be this anxious, it's likely that a friend or relative has had a mishap in their cultivation, causing their soul to leave their body. Taoist Li, if you have any soul-attracting incense, you could give it a try. All right, thank you for telling me, Manager Jin. Li Chang'an's heart stirred. As it happened, he had a stick of soul-attracting incense. As for why Pei Yingyao so urgently needed soul-attracting incense, Li Chang'an had a good guess. It was most likely because Jai Menjian was about to be possessed by the evil soul and was showing strange symptoms. Before this, Pei Yingyao had already lost one apprentice. She probably doesn't want to lose a second. A moment later, Li Chang'an arrived at the midway point of Yellow Crane Mountain, outside Pei Yingyao's residence. Elder Pei, this junior Li Chang'an, has come bearing soul-attracting incense. The moment his voice fell, the courtyard gate flew open instantly. Pei Yingyao's voice came from within at the same time. Come in. Hearing this, Li Chang'an was just about to step inside when a powerful suction force pulled him in, causing him to fly uncontrollably into the residence. He didn't resist the force, allowing himself to be pulled into the depths of the cave estate. As expected, Jai Menjian was here as well. She was sitting cross-legged, her pretty face deathly pale and covered in beads of sweat. Her closed eyelids trembled slightly, as if she were fighting against something. Pei Yingyao stood behind her, one hand resting on her shoulder. Upon seeing Li Chang'an, her expression was complicated, and she let out a soft sigh. Li Chang'an, regarding the matter of my sword, you were right, I was wrong. Chapter 188, Chapter 169, The Path to Immortality, Remnant Soul and Ring. Elder Pei, let's not discuss right or wrong for now. Saving Taoist Jai is what's important. As he spoke, Li Chang'an took the soul-attracting incense from his storage pouch. The moment the stick of incense appeared, Jai Menjian's expression suddenly changed, contorting in pain. Faintly, a few unwilling roars seemed to echo from within her body. It really is soul-attracting incense. Pei Yingyao felt a little more at ease. With a wave of her hand, the soul-attracting incense flew into her grasp. Immediately after, a black crystal stone appeared in her other hand. A nether soul crystal. However, what puzzled Li Chang'an was that this nether soul crystal didn't contain the drifting black mist he expected. It was completely empty. This nether soul crystal isn't just an artifact refining material. It's also an excellent choice for imprisoning a soul. Pei Yingyao noticed his confusion and offered an explanation. After she finished speaking, her palm gently swept over the soul-attracting incense. The soul-attracting incense was instantly lit. Wisps of dark smoke curled upwards, drifting around the cave dwelling like distorted, damned souls. The entire cave dwelling instantly grew colder, and a thin layer of frost formed on the surrounding stone walls. Menjian, just hold on a little longer. Pei Yingyao spoke as she used magic to guide the wisps of smoke into Jai Menjian's body. Jai Menjian's eyes were shut tight, the look of agony on her face growing more pronounced. But she still held on desperately. After a dozen or so breaths, a few unwilling roars echoed from within her body. No, no, no. The voice shifted, at times male, at times female, sometimes old, sometimes young. One moment it was a single person, the next it was as if thousands were screaming at once. It was hoarse and mournful, filled with resentment. Li Chang'an was secretly alarmed as he listened. Just what in the world is this evil soul? The next moment, a twisted, blood-red soul appeared before his eyes. This soul was different from a normal one. Its deformed face and body were constantly shifting. Maniacal visages appeared upon its form, and countless mangled limbs sprouted from its torso. There were men and women, old and young. It was like a monster fused from countless remnant souls. It struggled frantically, unwilling to accept its failed possession, still trying to control Jai Menjian's body. But Pei Yingyao gave it no such chance. Her brows knitted together, her face as cold as frost. She manipulated the power of the soul-attracting incense, pulling the evil soul out bit by bit. No! The monster shrieked madly. A sinister wind raged through the cave dwelling, thick with the stench of blood, making one feel as if they were on a brutal ancient battlefield. Finally, after a few more unwilling roars and howls, the evil soul was sealed within the nether soul crystal, no longer able to cause trouble. Let me out, let me out. It screamed itself hoarse, its body dissolving into a cloud of blood-red mist that coalesced and dispersed, frantically ramming against the nether soul crystal. But it was all in vain. Just as Pei Yingyao had said, the nether soul crystal was indeed a superior treasure for imprisoning souls. With that done, Pei Yingyao reached out and swiped her hand over the soul-attracting incense. The incense stick was immediately extinguished, having only burned down by about 20%. The dark smoke drifting about gradually dissipated, and the frost on the stone walls began to melt, returning everything to normal. There, Pei Yingyao wiped the fine beads of sweat from her fair forehead. She let out a soft breath and returned the soul-attracting incense to Li Chang'an. Li Chang'an, thank you for your help this time. It was my duty to help ease your worries, Elder Pei. Li Chang'an spoke sincerely as he accepted the soul-attracting incense and tossed it back into his storage pouch. This matter went rather smoothly. I expected the soul-attracting incense to be completely consumed, but it only used 20%. I can use it again if a similar situation arises in the future. Pei Yingyao looked at him a few more times, her gaze much softer than before. Li Chang'an had helped her eliminate the one who murdered her eldest disciple. Now he had helped her save her second disciple. These two events in succession convinced her that Li Chang'an was connected to her lineage by fate. Since fate has brought us together, there's no need to deliberately sever our karmic ties. He can be considered one of our own. Have a seat. Wait a moment, I need to stabilize Menjian's condition. As she spoke, Pei Yingyao waved her hand lightly, and a stone stool and a pot of spirit tea appeared in the cave dwelling. Li Chang'an had been here several times, but this was the first time he'd received such treatment. About a quarter of an hour later, Jai Menjian let out a soft groan, and the frown that had been knitted on her brow finally relaxed. Her chi was weak as she slowly opened her eyes. Thank you, Master, and thank you, Taoist Li, for your help. Don't speak yet. Circulate your cultivation technique and regulate your body. Pei Yingyao took out a few elixir pills and fed them to her disciple's pale lips. After a period of recuperation, Jai Menjian's qi finally recovered a great deal. A bit of color returned to her pale, pretty face, and her condition had clearly stabilized. Pei Yingyao nodded slightly. All right, rest well for the next month. You are not to engage in magical combat. Yes. Jai Menjian got up and thanked them again. She looked at Li Chang'an, her heart filled with a mix of complicated emotions. Back when they had first met, Li Chang'an had warned her that there was a problem with that sword. But at the time, she had felt that their cultivation paths and life experiences were too different. There was no need to take Li Chang'an's words to heart. How could a wood spirit root cultivator like Li Chang'an, who focuses on self-cultivation and nurturing his nature, possibly understand a sword cultivator? Looking at it now, he might not understand sword cultivators, but he definitely understood danger. A loose cultivator who came from a small place truly has something extraordinary about them, Jai Menjian thought to herself. If he didn't have such a strong sense of danger, Li Chang'an would have likely died long ago in some forgotten corner of the world. Taoist Li, if I had listened to you back then and destroyed that sword, perhaps I wouldn't have faced this calamity today.